Books are another creative resource that we have pretty readily available to us. Books are pretty easy to come by usually, and they can be a resource to us and our health in so many different ways. Of course, there are differences between good books and books that aren't quite as good, or, things that further our minds and things that kind of bring them down to the gutter. But I won't specify what that is for you. That's something you need to determine yourself. But books can definitely help us increase our knowledge and understanding. As we're reading, we are actually creating and or strengthening brain pathways. So if we're reading about something that we already know a good bit about, it's actually strengthening those brain pathways. And if we're reading about something brand new, many times it's creating a new brain pathway in us. And so books are a great and quick way to start changing, creating, strengthening our brain pathways. Books obviously help us improve our imagination. Fiction is a great resource for this. And I think that too often we think fiction is a lesser book to nonfiction books, but fiction actually has many great benefits, and a fiction book can do you a lot more good sometimes than a nonfiction book, depending on what the book is and what state of life you're in. Books bring us hope and joy in many ways, and books can also give us temporary relief from real life, so they can actually be a pain reliever, a grief reliever, usually a healthy way of coping with things. That's also on what kind of books we're talking about, because there are all kinds of books out there, and what we're wanting to use as a resource is something that's going to build us up, that's going to encourage us, that's going to grow us, that's going to give us rest and peace, that's going to lead to good things in our lives, right? So, nonfiction books are great for learning. If you would like to learn a new skill, or learn about history, or learn about how to relate to people, just learn about certain people's lives. There's a lot of good biographies and autobiographies out there. But there's all kinds of how-to books. Nonfiction books help us to learn. They help us to gain knowledge and gain understanding. And as with any books, I think it's very important also to learn to filter, because a book is usually written by a person, right? So a lot of times it's that person's experience, based on their experience, their knowledge, and their view of life and their perspective. So many times we're going to have to filter that to apply to our own lives, also to fit in, with our own beliefs and how we see the world, our own experiences. And so we're not always going to agree 100% with a book. That's why it's good to read many of them. For example, if you were wanting to garden, you're going to get all kinds of different opinions and examples and ways that people have done it. And, all of these things that can be very successful, but you're going to have to filter some of that and bring it together to fit in with the type of gardening that you are able to do, that you want to do. So, it's great to read nonfiction books. It's great to read a whole different perspectives and get just a well-rounded view of whatever topic that you're trying to learn about. Fiction books are great for rest, for resting our minds, for taking a break. But fiction books can also inspire ideas. The fiction books that I've written to inspire, to bring up questions in people's minds, and to not necessarily answer those questions for them, but to just give some ideas of so fiction books can be good for ideas. They can be good for seeing things from a perspective that's not our own. I know some of the fiction books that tell stories can really give us a good idea of how it is to walk in other people's shoes. And we start to really use our imaginations for that. They can inspire empathy. but also they can just be fun, just be fun to read. And fun is good. Fun is good for our health. Where do you find the most books? Go to the library. Libraries are becoming an antiquated thing, but it's such a great place to find books. And now libraries even have like apps. We have an app for a library where we can go on there and find books within our state. We live in Georgia. So within the libraries in our state, we can put books on hold and they will send them to our library down the street for us to go pick up. So many, many times before I will buy a book, I will go onto this app and see if it's available to me in the library, so I can probably read it for free, especially if I'm not looking to use it long term, or if I'm not sure I would really like it and I don't really want to invest the money into purchasing it. I can many times go on this app and find the book. And so completely recommend the library. We need to make space for reading. There needs to be time in our schedule to set aside for, learning and reading. Now, that doesn't always mean like reading a book. Sometimes it can be listening to a book. So there are many ways in our technological world to get your reading in, and some of it might be by listening. If you learn better by listening, that might be a better option for you to do audiobooks. You can get audiobooks at the library. You can also get apps like Audible and listen to books that way. So whatever it is, if it's while you're driving or, before bed, many times I'll do most of my reading before bed. Like I'll get in bed an hour or sometimes 2 hours early and just, use that time and space for reading. Also have some reading goals. You can get apps like Goodreads. Goodreads is an app that helps you like track the books that you've read and that you want to read. You can kind of keep them in there in lists. And you can also set goals for the year. Right now I have a goal to read like 55 books this year. I like to try to cover one nonfiction and one fiction book a month. I'm more drawn to the fiction many times. I've enjoyed writing fiction. It's just a good, a good healthy type of escape from just your life. You're able to write about somebody else's life, but then you're able to use like your life experiences. And the same reading, you're able to relate many times to the character in multiple ways, but then other ways you're not, like it's a different person. So just enjoyable to read fiction. So I have a lot more fiction books that I've completed on my list than nonfiction. I go through nonfiction slower, but that's usually, I think, the case for anybody. You're trying to learn a concept. It takes a little bit longer than just reading a story. Read with others. That is a great way to develop relationship while you're also reading, whether that's a nonfiction book that you're going through doing, learning the same thing at the same time. My husband and I are doing that right now with a marriage book. Or if you're reading to your kids, I'm also reading to my kids at night. We try to go through a book. We don't always get through it very quickly because some nights we're not able to do as much reading as others, but I've really enjoyed reading to them, and I've found that reading out loud actually helps me to read better when I'm not reading out loud. So it's been a really good experience all the way around. Sometimes I have them read to me as well, and that increases their effectiveness of reading. So it's just been a good thing to read with others. But there's things like book clubs. I know there's virtual book clubs now. You can join a book club online and enjoy reading, reading a book along with others and then discussing what you learned or discussing what you like or didn't like about the book. So that's another way to enjoy reading in community and not just on your own. What are some supplies that you might use while you're reading? Well, if you're reading nonfiction and you're learning something, it's great to have a highlighter or a pen or even a series, different colors of highlighters so that you can make marks in the book, make notes in the book. This is very helpful for going back through that book. So you read through it once, and then you may need to revisit some of the concepts. So you want to have the main concepts stick out to you with highlighting or with pens. It's a great way of studying that. But also, once you put it on your shelf, when you get it back down, you can just open up the pages and suddenly see something that really resonated with you that you're learning. And so highlighters or pens are great to use. Booklight, if you tend to read at nighttime, or you're in a room with other people that you can't always just have the light on while you're reading, a booklight is a great thing to have. Also, I didn't list here, but another good thing to have would be like reading glasses. If you need some help, even just a little bit of help seeing words, they're very helpful to help you enjoy that reading experience a little more without a headache if you have some issues with seeing words. I've actually enjoyed getting large print books lately because I'm up there in the mid 40s now, and so I'm having to get those large print books. And I notice, though, after I've read those large print books, for a while, like when I go to like look at my phone or the TV or something, everything seems clear, like everything's just clearer. And I think it's because my eyes aren't having to strain as much reading small words. And the large words just really help my eyes adjust really well to things. So, but a booklight can be very helpful. I'm going to put some things in the description that you may want to look at and see if they might be something that you want to use in your reading life. Kindle, that's another thing I just want to mention because I personally enjoy books. Like, I love the feel of the book. I love to be able to turn the pages, the smell of books. I'm just a very sensory person. And so I really enjoy having a book in my hand. And I've used a Kindle before for, certain periods of time. And I think Kindles are good for people who travel a lot. If you're traveling a lot, if you find yourself in different locations, to take your books along with you, because obviously, putting a stack of books in your bag is probably not something that's realistic. So the Kindle really helps because you have all your books, downloaded into the Kindle, and then you can just read on that device. So I'm going to put some links down in the description. You can kind of check that out, see if that's something that you might like, at least for the whole, travel thing. But books are a great resource. They're a fun resource. They are great for your brain in so many capacities, and they help you just discover the world and understand the world better. And have you ever seen one of those like zoom out cameras, like you're watching a show or a documentary or something, and they show like the person, and then they just start zooming out and they go out, and then all of a sudden they're in space, and you see the whole earth, and you just think of us as one person in this tiny place on earth, and our perspective and our experience and the things that we've gone through in life are such a tiny, minuscule piece of what the world and what life has to offer. And so books just kind of do that same thing that camera does. They just kind of get us to get a bigger picture and understanding of what goes on in the world, and things that we can see from other people's perspective. They're just really great in growing us as a person, growing our character, and enjoying better health. Books can definitely contribute to our health in a variety of ways. Even if you're just reading about health in general, that is actually improving your health in some ways, usually if you're taking those concepts and putting them into action. So anyway, try the creative resource of reading. That is a great thing to work into your life on a regular, consistent basis.